Yo guys, Dorki here. In today's video, we will be talking about the potential rise in a new high-end plus meta. Recently, people have discovered a way to completely skip prideful spawns, a strategy that is now heavily seen in MDI. We are now seeing this strategy incorporated all over the highest keys in the recent push week. This is actually extremely big when it comes to routing, strategy, and even class viability in the highest M plus keys. By being able to completely nullify the seasonal affix, we can choose when we actually need the pride buff or not. Before, you would see routes where you would go close to 100% count, kill the last boss, then finish count to skip the final pride, but now it's possible to choose and pick which one to skip. So how exactly does this skip work? Basically, the entire team requires popping an invisibility potion immediately when the pride spawns, allowing you to just walk away from it. Currently, the way this is communicated is you would leave the final mob that gives enough percentage so that everyone can prepare for the spawn, stacking up away from where you are heading to, then pop the invisibility potion and all run together. As far as we know, stealth including shroud does not work or is unreliable, meaning that potions are required even for druids. In the past history of M+, we've seen ways of skipping the seasonal affix, primarily with shadow meld. Think back Season 2 Reaping, Season 3 Emissary like the Void Emissary, and even Season 4 Awaken where certain strategies allowed for activating obelisks with shadow meld. Now that even Horde players can skip a seasonal affix easily, this could be a very big deal. Historically, Blizzard hasn't cared too much about meld skipping just because no one really played Alliance at high M+ levels, only in the MDI where you can choose your character presets. Horde has always been the more popular faction when it came to PvE, meaning that people didn't really have the choice of becoming Night Elf for skips. With that in mind, this could also mean that Blizzard may be potentially fixing this skip. So far in the recent patch, they have implemented True Sight in the prides, probably as a way to deal with this, but it has failed to work properly just because you could outrange the pride before it spawned. Now for skipping pride and what exactly it means in high M+ meta, basically this changes everything. Before you had to think about how you can make the most value in each pride, meaning that when it came to routing, you always had to look at where you can spawn a quote-unquote good pride that won't be wasted and will make our time fighting it worthwhile. You never wanted to spend all that time and cooldown on a pride just to fight some small trash pack or an easy boss. But now that we can choose and pick which prides, we are seeing groups that are basically skipping any pride that doesn't open up a crazy pull or a dangerous boss. Like I've said in my routing video, you only need 2 important prides in the dungeon at the other side, which are the ones before Hakar and Dealer Liaxa. This means that we could potentially skip at least 3 of the 5 prideful ones. In terms of time efficiency, prides have never been worth fighting. This becomes more and more apparent as you go higher and higher in keys. When reaching keystones level 20 and above, prides become extremely dangerous and take a while to kill. They require heavy cooldowns from both DPS and healer most of the time. You will see classes like Fire Mage usually dedicating a combust early on the pride, or Adrenaline Rush from the rogue, and even convoke the spirits from a boomkin. Healers generally have to exhaust at least 1 major healing cooldown if not more, depending on how long they live for. In some of these higher key levels I've been doing in the past week, it requires even more and more cooldowns from everyone. In this clip here, check out how insanely tough this pride was for our 24 missed attempt. This required basically all our healing cooldowns, combust on pull, and peaking our healer's HPS at 18k. Our other DPS couldn't commit their cooldowns here just because we needed both Convoke and Celestial alignment for when Droman's vulnerability phase was up.
Oh yeah, that's what's
Careful it is.
Pride is actually beating man. I popped so early, man.
It's fine, I think.
Holy
F dude, does it really take that much healing? Yeah, let's try it, dude, who cares? So what exactly does this mean for class meta? Well, this will largely affect healers the most. The biggest reason for the rise of the quote-unquote Resto Shaman meta was largely due to them having insane healing throughput. So when it came to doing high-level prides, Resto Shamans were the safest to play with. We will begin to see more and more Disc Priests or Holy Paladins with how much damage and utility they provide, while being able to play Vengefear safely. When healers aren't gate-kept by their healing, the healer that provides the most DPS are generally the strongest in high M+, and so far Holy Paladin has the biggest damage. I've seen Ellesmere bursting anywhere from 10k to 40k DPS depending on the size of the pull, and generally around 3k overall DPS, which is insane for a healer. This priest doesn't provide nearly as much damage, but provides a massive buff for fire mages, with their power infusion. When doing a massive pull with a buffed mage, the mage can easily delete the pack before the tank runs out of cooldowns. Aside from the shift in healing meta, we may also see the return in rogues. Now that invis pots are being used to skip prides, Shroud might become important once again for the skips that were utilized with potions. Rogues were already decent to begin with, just not nearly as important as it was before. We might see more of these classes becoming popular, but it's unlikely that the meta will be shifting for most players. While Holy Paladins and Disc Priests are really good, they may still struggle with healing groups that are less organized and more likely to take unnecessary damage. Disc Priest mostly excels when combined with Fire Mage, but not every group will have one. And while damage is important, it won't be the determining factor for timing keys below the highest. Most groups out there will still benefit the most from Resto Shaman healing. Similarly, rogues are still behind in damage compared to some of these other classes, and for most groups, there aren't any crazy routes that demand a shroud. I haven't played too much in the mid to high level key range, so I am curious what you guys think. For those of you guys who are starting to push 20s, do you think prides are becoming problematic, and are timers tight because of damage or routing? Leave a comment down below, I'd love to hear more about how it is for the groups climbing up. As for keys in general, we will likely see a key level higher than expected. With certain dungeons that allow us to skip most if not all prides, like Halls of Atonement for example, we save a ton of time making a level 25 or even 26 key possible this season. So far we have done a Halls one where we can skip 3 of the 5 prides, and this is without the Ventfirs or Stoneborn. A top level group will likely kill 1 or 2 pride for free with a Stoneborn and skip the rest. Currently, a lot of bosses are also tuned around pride buff. Think Hakar as the prime example. This boss usually gets killed under 2 minutes because it's usually pulled with pride, lust, and every DPS cooldown. But without all that, the boss is practically impossible. If more and more of these overtuned bosses are nerfed, we may see pride being skipped even more. Normally, we would see a trickle-down effect in the meta, but I highly doubt this will affect the lower level key scene much just because Pridefuls aren't nearly as crazy as they are in the highest keys, so it's unlikely that we'll see a meta shift in pugs. However, for you organized groups out there that are pushing the higher level keys, this may be something you will want to start incorporating. Will Blizzard do something about this? Hard to tell, but they've been actively pushing out some really good changes so far in this expansion. Now for some final thoughts. The highest keys will require more damage as we'll be able to complete a higher level key than previously anticipated. Initially, many of us thought that keys would be gated by survivability, which was the major reason for Resto Shaman's popularity. Keys will also come down to who can pull off the riskiest strategy because not fighting a pride also means not receiving a major buff for specific bosses. Imagine fighting Sanguine Death's bosses without prides. And the best groups will definitely be the ones who can beat these bosses without relying on the pride buff. Personally, I would like to see this fixed because skipping an entire affix has always been a bit ridiculous, and it's never really been a thing outside of shadow melding. Anyways, that is it for the video. Thank you all for watching. Hit the like, comment, and subscribe to help your boy Dorki out with the content, and we've got lots to come. What the hell, he's died so fast. At least the Staghorns did. I'm gonna go pull the other Staghorn. Are you kidding me? Oh my god, I get the nut too. Oh.